It started with a single question shouted by reporters. Would the United States attack Venezuela? Donald Trump's answer was brief and unexpected. No decision had been made. But within hours, conflicting reports suggested otherwise. According to multiple news outlets, the U.S. was preparing for possible land or air strikes against the Venezuelan military. The question now wasn't if America would act, but when. Behind the political denials and the classified briefings, a deeper story was unfolding, one that blended international politics, allegations of narcotics trafficking, and the lingering tension between two leaders whose feud had already pushed their nations to the brink. On a tense Friday morning, according to some sources, the Trump administration had already decided to carry out land strikes inside Venezuela. The sources quoted by the outlet claimed the attacks could begin within hours or days. The targets, they said, were linked to Venezuela's military and suspected narcotics operations. Only a day earlier, the Wall Street Journal had revealed that the White House was considering airstrikes on similar sites, though it noted no final decision had been made. Trump's own public statement, however, contradicted both accounts. When asked directly by reporters, he denied authorizing any such action. The mixed messaging left analysts and lawmakers scrambling for clarity. Was Washington preparing for another foreign military campaign? Or was this a strategic bluff designed to pressure Venezuela's leadership? The speculation surrounding military action didn't appear out of nowhere. For years, Trump had accused Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro of running what he described as a criminal enterprise under the guise of government. The White House alleged that senior Venezuelan officials were tied to drug cartels and illicit smuggling operations. Maduro and his allies dismissed these accusations as fabricated, calling them part of a U.S. effort to destabilize the country and justify foreign intervention. They argued that Washington's real objective was regime change, a charge many foreign policy experts quietly echoed. Indeed, the Trump administration had long refused to recognize Maduro's 2024 re-election, describing it as fraudulent. Instead, Washington continued supporting opposition figures and had imposed sweeping sanctions targeting Venezuela's oil and banking sectors. At the heart of Trump's stated justification was the war on drugs. The administration claimed that Venezuela's military infrastructure, including naval facilities, ports, and airports, was being used for narcotics trafficking. Yet experts pointed out a critical flaw in that narrative. Fentanyl, the drug Trump most often mentioned, is neither produced nor trafficked through Venezuela in any significant quantity. That contradiction fueled the belief that the campaign against Maduro had less to do with drugs and more to do with power. Though no confirmed list of targets was released, analysts suggested that any U.S. strikes would likely focus on coastal or military facilities. Ports along the Caribbean coastline, naval bases, and key airports under the control of Venezuela's armed forces were considered probable points of interest. The region has long been a strategic gateway for both legitimate trade and illicit smuggling routes. Venezuela's proximity to U.S. allies in the Caribbean and its vast oil reserves have made it a focal point of geopolitical tension for decades. If carried out, U.S. strikes would represent the first land-based attacks inside Venezuelan territory, a major escalation from earlier operations that took place offshore. Those previous missions had targeted boats allegedly carrying drugs, resulting in the deaths of 61 people. While the Pentagon characterized those actions as counter-narcotics operations, critics saw them as the groundwork for a broader campaign. The Trump administration's pursuit of Maduro was not limited to military pressure. In August, the Departments of Justice and State doubled the bounty on Maduro's head, offering $50 million for information leading to his arrest or conviction on U.S. narcotics charges. That extraordinary figure placed the Venezuelan leader among the world's most wanted figures under American law. US officials insisted the bounty was tied to specific violations of anti-drug statutes. However, Maduro's government denounced it as an act of political aggression, an attempt to publicly criminalize a sitting head of state. Many international observers viewed the bounty as part of a broader strategy: delegitimize Maduro, destabilize his regime internally, and open the path for new leadership aligned with Washington's interests. Even before any land strikes occurred, Trump's Venezuela policy had already sparked fierce controversy in Congress. Lawmakers from both parties criticized the administration for authorizing offshore strikes without congressional approval. They questioned whether Trump's 2019 executive order, which labeled certain drug cartels as terrorist organizations, provided any legal basis for using military force against a foreign government. Senate Democrats introduced a war powers resolution to prevent further unauthorized attacks. The measure failed narrowly, 48 to 51, though a few Republicans joined in support. Among them was Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, who argued that celebrating targeted killings without trial was both unconstitutional and morally indefensible. Other lawmakers, including Republican Representative Mike Turner, voiced frustration over the administration's lack of transparency. Following a classified briefing, Turner remarked that the answers provided about the strike's legal justifications were not very good. Their concern reflected a larger unease: the possibility that the US could stumble into yet another undeclared conflict under the banner of counterterrorism or anti-narcotics enforcement. Inside Venezuela, Maduro used the reports of potential US strikes to rally his supporters. He accused Washington of fabricating a new war to justify military intervention and warned that any attack on Venezuelan soil would be met with resistance. His government claimed that the US presence in the Caribbean, including naval patrols and intelligence operations, was designed to provoke confrontation. Maduro's allies in Cuba, Russia, and Iran echoed this sentiment, describing Trump's threats as part of a pattern of American imperialism aimed at controlling Venezuela's vast oil reserves. Meanwhile, humanitarian groups voiced fears that even limited US strikes could worsen the country's ongoing crisis. Venezuela's economy had already collapsed under years of sanctions and mismanagement, pushing millions into poverty and driving one of the largest migration waves in Latin American history. By week's end, there were still no confirmed reports of US land strikes, but the tension remained high. With conflicting news reports, anonymous leaks, and official denials, it was impossible to know whether the US military was standing down or simply waiting for the right moment. For Trump, the confrontation with Venezuela fit neatly within a broader foreign policy narrative, projecting American strength, dismantling hostile regimes, and demonstrating that the US would act unilaterally when it deemed necessary. For Venezuela, however, the mere threat of attack carried real consequences. It deepened domestic paranoia, fueled anti-American sentiment, and further isolated the country from the international stage. Whether or not the strikes ever occur, the episode underscores how quickly modern geopolitics can teeter between rumor and reality. One morning's denial can coexist with another outlet's anonymous confirmation. And somewhere in that space, nations prepare for outcomes no one wants to admit are possible. As both governments dig in, one truth remains. In the fog of politics and power, the line between defending national interests and provoking global instability grows dangerously thin,